We're going to look at Social Security from the perspective of a solo retiree. Now, solo retirement makes Social Security critical. With married couples, you just have more options with Social Security. There's more opportunities to optimize your Social Security experience where one spouse draws and then the other spouse waits, or one spouse may draw based on the other spouse's earnings, et cetera. You don't really have that as a solo retiree person. So, getting this right out of the gate is super important. I'm going to break this up into two parts and two videos because there's a lot of information here and I don't want this video to be too long. But I found a statement of a fictional person, Wanda Worker. I'm going to go through and explain it to you and explain how a financial advisor sees this information. First and foremost, I do recommend as a financial advisor that everyone goes to www.saa.gov, which is the Social Security Administration's website, and pull their Social Security statement yearly. Why do I recommend doing it yearly? Your information is updated to the Social Security Administration from the IRS yearly. Also, if you have a mistake on your Social Security document, you want to be able to correct that statement immediately. I had one situation where a client pulled their Social Security statement and hadn't pulled it in over 20 years, and they found a mistake dating back to 2004. It's great that this person caught it, but good luck correcting it, right? Because when you call the Social Security Administration to say, hey, I think I have a mistake here, they're going to ask for proof, they're going to ask for documentation. And unless you have your tax returns from 2004, no, it's a long shot, but some people do keep their tax returns from 20 plus years ago. It's going to be impossible to correct that information. It's only relatively recently, I believe in the last maybe 15 years or so, that the IRS started digitizing a lot of its information and a lot of its transcript information. So for that individual, there really is no way to go back and correct that information from 2004. But had he been gathering his statements annually, he could have caught it the moment that it happened and worked with the Social Security Administration to correct. So that's a very important point that I emphasize to my clients and I'm emphasizing to you. It's once again, the website is www.ssa.gov. The next thing, your name. Okay, if you are a junior, a second or third or fourth or fifth, you're James the second, third, fourth, fifth. I have seen situations where the name wasn't quite right. They confuse you with your father, they confuse you with another relative with a similar name. Make sure that your name is spelled accurately. And if you're a second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever, make sure that this is the correct person that is listed on the statement. This is the date that the statement was generated, April 28th, 2025. Another thing that I immediately go to in looking at a Social Security statement is this, the date of birth. I have seen Social Security statements with an incorrect date of birth. Something happened. There was a typo. This person was James the third, and they're looking at the birthday of James the fourth or something like that. You want to make sure this birthday is correct because everything is calculated according to this birthday, including your date of retirement and all of your earnings and documentation is calculated to this birthday. And if the birthday is incorrect, you're not going to get accurate numbers out of the Social Security system. So once we've gone over name and date of birth, everyone wants to jump over here. And this is the information that people want to see. And this is how much money you're going to get. But this is a mistake to immediately jump over here because there's a lot of information in these gray boxes on the first page that people need to know. I always read it with the client and review it, and I'm just going to quickly go over it with you. First thing is it's confirming that you do have enough credits to qualify for retirement benefits. A lot of people don't know this, but you need 40 quarters of work or about 10 years of work. It doesn't have to be consistent, but 10 years of work during your working career to be eligible for Social Security. If you do not have 10 years of work, if you have 9 years and 3/4 of work, you are not eligible for Social Security. And I have had a situation where an individual lived abroad for an extensive period of time and they ended up like right on the verge of being eligible for Social Security. They had 9.5 years of work and they needed 2 more quarters. And the person managed to get just a job at the corner store or something like that for half a year to be eligible for Social Security. So it does happen. It mainly affects people who go abroad for work and work in a country that doesn't have a reciprocal agreement with the United States, or go into a pension system that doesn't pay into Social Security. But you definitely want to review this and make sure that you have enough qualified credits for work. So, this is also a very important fact that this estimate over here, these numbers here, are based on your continued earnings of your last year's earning. So, let's say last year in 2024, you earned $120,000. This would completely change all of these numbers here. But the system is assuming that you're going to continue to earn $120,000, no more or no less, over the rest of your career until you start drawing your Social Security. Now, everyone knows that is not correct. That is not accurate. Our earnings go up, our earnings go down, our earnings stay flat, they move around. So you have to take this statement from the Social Security Administration as a guesstimate based on today what your Social Security benefits will be in the future. So don't ignore this box, read over it, make sure you have enough credits, and make sure you understand that what you're seeing over here is an assumption. Also, quickly, Social Security has other parts. These other parts really aren't relevant to the retirement discussion, but just to go over quickly, their Social Security disability benefits is basically if you become completely and totally disabled and you can't work any jobs, Wanda would receive $2,083 a month. There's survivor benefits. This is it is if a family member dies who may qualify for benefits and you have minor children, they may be eligible for Social Security. You also have Medicare. So, Medicare, once again, you need a certain number of credits to qualify for Medicare. And if you fall one or two credits short, you don't get Medicare. So, you want to read this box and make sure that you have enough credits. Wanda does have enough credits here for Medicare. So, she's in good shape in that she's going to receive Social Security and she's going to receive Medicare. After you go over these four boxes right quick and look over to make sure that the information is accurate, then we can get to this part over here. To bring everyone up to speed, you can take Social Security as early as 62 or as late as age 70. Full retirement age in the United States right now is age 67. I do believe that for my generation, some Gen X, millennials, and Gen Zs, they're going to have to change these ages in order to remain solvent. And I do believe that 67 is going to become like 68 or 69 for most Americans, and that's going to become full retirement age. I do believe early retirement, they're going to have to move early retirement up to maybe 64 or 65. But we're going to go right now with what is currently the law. So you can start taking Social Security as early as 62, as late as 70. If you take Social Security at age 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, you can work, but you can only earn a certain amount of money. And the limit is, I think, $24,480, I believe, for 2026. If you earn over that, they basically start taking back your Social Security. At age 67, if you or until you reach full retirement age, the amount goes from 24,000 to 65,000 or something like that. They'll start taking your Social Security. But bottom line, if you are planning to work and start taking Social Security before full retirement age, you probably should have a conversation with a financial advisor or an accountant because you may end up putting yourself in a terrible tax bind where the majority or a solid portion of your Social Security income is basically clawed back by the government because the government really doesn't want you working full time and taking Social Security. That's not the purpose of Social Security. It really advances the strain on the Social Security system to have people working full time and collecting Social Security at 62. So the government really doesn't want you to do that and will tax the heck out of that Social Security if you try doing that. So 67 is full retirement age, but each year after 67, you wait to collect your Social Security benefits, you get an 8% increase. So that's pretty nice. So if Wanda were to wait until age 70 to collect her Social Security, she would get $2,634. Now, a lot of Americans take their retirement at age 62, and that has to do with a bunch of reasons. People are laid off, they become disabled, they have family obligations. They may not have a choice but to take Social Security at age 62. I would speak to a financial advisor about your personal situation because sometimes there are circumstances where it makes sense to take Social Security at age 62. You have a pretty severe illness, or everybody in your family is dead before the age of 70. you just have been diagnosed with end stage cancer or something like that, it may make sense to take Social Security at age 62. But if you're a normal, healthy 62-year-old with good longevity in your family and you don't have any sort of terminal or serious diagnosis, taking it at 62 can end up being a mistake. But many Americans do end up taking it at 62. Taking it at 62 versus taking it at 67 represented about a 30% reduction in benefits. For solo retirees, this is serious. And in the second video, I'm going to discuss why that is so serious to lose 30% of your benefits. But most people understand that it's to their benefit to wait as long as possible to start taking their Social Security. For most of my clients, they start taking Social Security at either 67, 68, 69, or 70. My clients are often very well off people. They can afford to wait. They have longevity in their family. They fully expect to live until their late 80s or 90s. They are often working into their late 60s, and they can afford to wait and have decided just to wait till full Social Security. But I understand that isn't true of all Americans. Okay, so let's look at the second page. There is a second page of this. And once again, everybody goes to the money first. And this is important, but I also want you to read what is in this gray box. So, earning records. This is the most important part of the Social Security document. And you need to make sure each and every year you pull your Social Security statement, your earning record is accurate. Things happen, Social Security Administration makes mistakes. Sometimes earnings are not properly recorded. I have seen it about twice in my career where that has actually happened. But you want to review this information here in this box to make sure that it is accurate. Now, if you worked before the year 2000, you may have to go to another part of the SSA website to find your earnings history going back to then. That's because there was no way to digitally document earnings from 1971. But basically, we're looking at Wanda's work history here. And when she stopped working, I'm assuming in 2020, her salary was $54,489. This was not her salary. This is what she paid Social Security taxes on. And let me make a very important distinction here. So your earnings record, it's not all earnings everywhere that end up in the Social Security pot. So Social Security looks at wages, salaries, bonuses, commissions, and net earnings from self-employment. What it doesn't look at, it doesn't look at pensions, annuities, investment income, or rental income unless your rental income is your primary business. So sometimes people think that everything on their taxes goes into Social Security, but that isn't true. So Wanda may have had W-2 income, but she also may have had 500,000 in rental income. It's not going to show up here and it's not going to be calculated towards Social Security. So just make sure that when you were reviewing this information and you were comparing it against prior year's taxes, you understand that maybe not all of your income or all that you paid taxes on the prior year, you paid Social Security taxes on. And that's why the number that you see on your tax return is different than the number on your Social Security statement. Another thing I want to bring up about this Social Security statement, don't hide earnings. I have clients who may work in fields that are heavily tipped and they receive a good portion of their income in tips. I don't know if the person is hiding income or not, but I'm always looking at their taxes and how much should they earn in tips. When people don't declare their full income or their tips or things like that, it shows up here on their Social Security statement. You have a client who earns $100,000 a year, but through deductions and not declaring things and blah, 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 their taxes only show $40,000 a year. And that's what they're paying taxes on. When you pull their Social Security statement, they only have 40,000 here. And they're like, I earn $100,000 a year. Yeah, but you're not declaring that to the IRS and you're taking a bunch of deductions and you're not really declaring all of your tips. So it's impacting your Social Security statement. And once you have several years of that, it totally flatlines your Social Security earnings and it can completely decimate your retirement. So for people who work in industries where they have an opportunity to make deductions on their income, where they're not declaring all of their tips, you may be inadvertently shooting yourself in the foot by reducing your Social Security earnings. Another thing that you want to pay attention here, you also want to read this column over here, which gives you all the important facts you need to know about Social Security. So it says from the jump, Social Security is not supposed to be your only source of income. Unfortunately, for many Americans, it is, but it's not supposed to be that way. You need at least 10 years of work. And this is critical. This is one of the most critical things that I think you need to know here today. Your benefit amount in Social Security is based on your highest 35 years of earnings. So, this is why solo retirement, early retirement can be really difficult if you're going to be dependent in some way on Social Security. So, if you don't have 35 years of earnings, you get a zero in that column. And once you get a zero in that column, these numbers up here readjust, and they can readjust downward very quickly. The zero will, even like 1 0, will drag this down super quick. In an ideal world, a person would have no zeros in their Social Security earnings history. But the reality of life is that most people have a zero. Something happened. Maybe they didn't work for a year. They had an illness. They worked for this a state entity that didn't pay into Social Security for 2 years, so nothing was recorded there. But if you started working at let's say 20 and worked all the way through, 55 would be the earliest age that you would be able to get away with not having a single zero on your Social Security statement. You want to pay attention to that. You want to go back through this earnings history here, your complete earning histories, and count the years and see how many years of earnings you have to make sure you do not have a zero listed in the years of earning, and that you have earnings that count up to 35 years of earnings. So, very important point. If you walk away with anything today, make sure you have 35 years of earnings. If you don't have 35 years of earnings, these numbers are going to shift dramatically to account for zeros for each of those years of earnings. The next point is to keep up with inflation. Benefits are adjusted through cost of living adjustments. I believe at the end of December, Social Security sent out its annual cost of living adjustment. Usually averages about 2.6%, but in some years it can be higher. If you're single, but you were divorced and you were married 10 years, you may be able to capture Social Security benefits based on your ex-spouse's earnings record. It doesn't affect their Social Security earnings, but it can have a big impact on your Social Security earnings. I do believe that this benefit is going to change with the next iteration of Social Security. They're going to have to change this, and they're probably going to say you have to earn Social Security based on your own benefit. If you received a pension, this is very important. If you ever received a pension, there was just a Social Security Fairness Act by the windfall elimination provision that was passed by the Biden administration. It's very complicated to go into, but you may receive Social Security and pension. If you want to learn more about Social Security, it just provides a little bit more information here. But essentially, the first part of understanding, or first part of being a solo retiree and getting Social Security, is understanding your benefits and understanding how you read your statement. I'm going to do a part two, but I strongly suggest you go and you grab your statement and basically read through it and make sure it is accurate, and then hang in there for part two. So tell me what you think. Tell me what you like. And if you found this information useful, please share and subscribe. Thanks.